Get started. All right, Grand Rising, everyone. This is Ron. It's Sunday, August the 10th, a little after 11 a.m. Start off and see if we have any questions, anything about what we spoke about on yesterday, or anything for that matter, if you have something, any questions. No questions, comments?
Hey,
Okay.
Ron, I have
Yes, sir.
one question.
Yes, sir.
Uh, how do Abraham fits in that the Tower of Babylon? Because I know he was in there during that time.
Well, Charles, that's a good question. That really kind of sparked that study that we did because what we're looking at was the journey that Abraham took and what that meant metaphorically. And all of that starts with Nimrod. All of that starts with the Tower of Babel and what takes place. But even going back to the flood, kind of everything kind of prompts that. And if not for the people being like-minded and approaching the Creator the way they did, then would there have been a need for a journey for Abraham? So that's what kind of got that all started. He is a result of what we discussed on last week. And again, uh, kind of lacking it to who you are and the journey that is in you. It is no different than that thing that prompted Charles to move to say that there is something more than what I am seeing here. I wanna step inside of myself and take this trip and see what things I value, what things are clear up this confusion and show me exactly who I am. That's what it's really about.
Okay, I understand it now. The whole thing is in you.
It's
You're
in you.
like Abraham. Yeah, I got you.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else want to may be able to
Well, I
explain?
have a question.
Okay.
Grand Rising family and honor to the ancestors. What Charles is describing you, is that not like the burning bush when Moses was going somewhere? I forgot. I'm not a Bible scholar, but anyway, and he stopped, or it stopped, and it looked at the burning bush. Is that not the same thing, concept?
Kinda, sorta. What do you think, Pastor?
I was mulling it over, um, trying to see the correlation there.
I
But,
guess,
but both of them resulted in taking notice.
yeah.
And I have another question.
And
Um,
they both went on a journey, sort of in search of God.
Hmm.
Okay, and so my other question is the reason why the Tower of Babel was stopped or whatever, distorted, is it because of their intent? They were trying to ascend the wrong way. Their motive was to be like God, if I'm saying that right. Was their intention wrong? Because was their intention wrong? That's my question. I'll stop there.
What I gathered from that is that they were going to they were going to be gods based on what they desired, as opposed to the other way. In other words, they said they were going to build a tower to the heavens, right?
Hmm.
So they were seeking enlightenment on their own terms, and that is prevalent to this day. Because Christianity seeks enlightenment on its own terms. And whatever they say it is, that's what it is, regardless of whether or not you can show differently that it means something totally different. And the Tower of Babel, we are taught that it was an actual tower, but in the same breath, we say that the scripture is spiritual. So if the scriptures are spiritual, then the Tower of Babel must have a spiritual meaning, and the desire to reach the heavens also has a spiritual meaning. I'm going to elevate myself to enlightenment on my own terms, and the languages were changed, and the language that are changed is the language that we speak now is English, and the language that the church speaks is a different language than what we speak, even though it is English as well. So all of those things are spiritual. Does that make sense, Evelyn?
Yes, sir. So religion is the Tower of Babel, the religious concept?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
I think one of the things, Pastor, that surprised me about that, or something we didn't talk about, it says they were coming from the east. In other words, if you look at the flood metaphorically and look at something that it awakens you, it forced them to go back to beginning. So they went back to beginning and they came up with the Tower of Babel. They went back to beginning and they still came up with seeing themselves. I want to do this for myself so this can't happen to us again. So that part kind of stuck out to me, that they were coming from the east, traveling from the east.
What is the meaning of East, Ron?
East is beginning. So it looks like the if you look at the flood as being trauma to them, or something that at least gets their attention, it forced them back to their beginning. It's almost like, okay, I'm awake now and I want to see who I am, kind of thing. But they didn't see that. Their thoughts weren't, I want to see who I am. The thoughts were, I don't want this to happen to me again, so I'm going to rise above this. That's the part that I could never really see or figure out. How did they make that journey and come to that conclusion?
Say that about the East again, Ron.
Okay, it is no different than let's say a couple are having problems, but they both want to work it out. What do? They sit down and talk, or they take a trip, or they do something. They may even go to counseling, but they go back to their beginning. They go back to uh, the time when they loved and cherished each other before all the stuff, before their lives changed. So when you go back to beginning, you're trying to find something that it was meaningful to you, something that had importance to you, something that what was that you were familiar with, that had value. You go back to your past. And so them coming back from the East kind of got my attention. Uh, because what's in the background of that is the flood itself, meaning you had an opportunity to purge all the darkness out of you, or whatever, however you want to call that. You had opportunity to be cleansed, and you come back and say, uh, I want to make a name for myself. I see who I am. And that's the part that just kind of surprised me. And I guess you can apply that to religion. I want to get bigger than I am so that this won't happen to me again. I'm gonna get out of reach from anything like this ever happening again. Does it,
I think,
huh?
okay. East, East also speaks to the front of things,
Right,
and the front is always the beginning.
beginning.
So, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, good morning, Ron. Good morning, everyone.
Winning.
Um, as you speak about East, I think about the power of words or a word. And so in the New Testament, it talks about in the beginning, right, was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. But if we just look at the word, when we talk about beginning, it starts with love. And we've been speaking loving kindness. We've been speaking, words that have great significance. But as we look at it in terms of even pictures, the sun rises in the east.
Yeah.
What does that mean? And sometimes it can just move right past us if we're not, sensitive to our opportunities to be able to observe nature. And as you was walking in nature this morning, Ron, I think that again, there's signs and symbols, there's, energy that's flowing all of the time. But when we're able to tap into that, I think that, resonates with us. And so I just wanted to speak about, that scripture in the New Testament, but in the Old Testament, it talks about in the beginning, God created, right? And so I
Yeah.
think those are powerful words that as we begin to appreciate in our desire to search for truth and to be aware, I think it has validity. And so I just want to share those thoughts. I'm done.
Thank you, George.
George. You said that the sun rises in the east, and that is true. We talked about the beginning in the east. That is true. When the sun, I see the sun as now anyway, as being a reminder of beginning, a reminder of life from the beginning because of where it rises. I don't think that anything is haphazardly written in the sacred writings. I don't believe that is haphazard that the sun rises in the east. I believe all of those things are connected spiritually. I believe that uh, um, if we pay attention to nature, as George mentioned earlier, then that in itself speaks to us. The uh, the sun reminding us of beginning, the sun reminding us of life, and the moon reminding us of femininity. The moon, um, the guiding force that speaks to a period of time when a female goes through preparation for a pregnancy. So these two um, planetary bodies uh, has a greater voice, a louder voice than we've talked about, or louder voice than I have seen, to be honest with you, until now. So that's what came to mind um, when you talked about in the beginning in relationship to the son, George. Uh, and the other thing about that is this: when you talked about um, Genesis saying that in the beginning, actually it says beginning, better sheep, beginning. What is beginning? Beginning is the start of something. In the beginning, God. In the beginning, created God. So beginning created God. So suppose that beginning is actually referencing the time period just before humans were brought into, just before God was brought into the earth in human form. beginning brought into existence Elohim. And then after that existence of Elohim, the the earth begins to form, meaning that the nursery is being built for the entrance of Elohim in a physical form into the earth. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Any,
Yeah.
any questions or comments about that? Well, let me ask this. Is it clear? George said yes. But
It's just that I've had so many questions about beginning. Beginning is talks about when something is manifested then, right?
yep. Yes, beginning brings about manifestation of something.
Yeah.
And if Elohim had not been manifested at that time, then we would not be Elohim in this earth, because Elohim was manifested at that time for the express purpose of bringing things into existence. And if you look at it in Genesis 2, it says that, and the Lord God formed man from humanity, from the dust of the earth, meaning that after everything was done, and after Elohim had manifested, what happened? The breath of life was blown into this man or this entity. That means that the breath of life is Elohim, is spiritual. And that is the spiritual essence that makes us Elohim in bodily form, or Elohim living in these bodies. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Questions or comments? And that's what I gather from what was said earlier. Thank you.
Yeah. And in those comments, Pastor, as you mentioned in terms of beginning created Elohim, and we speak about the breath of life, but if we look at and ask the question, what existed before the beginning? And you talked about energy. And energy, you know what I mean, always existed. And so when we look at it in terms of beginning, I basically try to give thought to our ancestors, being able to appreciate and being taught by nature. And so before we, put on our earthly vessels, or before we evolved in terms of this human being, we were spiritual. And so when it talks about, again, us being able to speak to our ancestors, or being able to appreciate beginnings, I feel and know that that's where the Creator has placed us at a time such as this, to be able to appreciate our ancestral intelligence. And I think that we'll, look at that in terms of how we view it in various ways. But I believe that we are hearing from our ancestors. I believe that we're looking at the journey that they took, but more importantly, them having a desire to want to make sure that we can appreciate the lessons that they are sharing with us today. So again, I just wanted to kind of sum it up that before, we became human, we were already spiritual. And,
Mm.
and now, we're looking at it in terms of looking at the spiritual evolution of who we are. So I just want to share those thoughts, as you was mentioning about, Pastor, again, Bereshith bar Elohim, right? Beginning created Elohim. I'm done.
Um, yeah, based on what you just said, let me see this is what I deduce from it. That the reason that we are one with nature is because we created nature before we became human. If Elohim created, if you read in Genesis, it said, and God said, and Elohim said, does it not? So Elohim is brought into existence all of creation. And that is the reason that we are one with nature, because we created nature. The spiritual essence of who we are brought nature into existence, brought all these natural forms into existence. Does that make sense, George?
Yes, it does. And I think that's the essences of who we are, but being able to understand it in a way that we can appreciate. And I think that it was something that Audrey mentioned yesterday as I was reviewing the podcast, in terms of I wish there was questions or comments that our grandparents would have shared with us. You know what I mean? In terms of being able to, deal with the truth. And I'm only saying that I understood, Pastor, what you meant in terms of sometimes because of protection. But I think that there's that desire, that we have in terms of when the student is ready to learn, the teacher will appear. That I think there's desires that we have, where I think our ancestors are ready to speak to us through our eyes, through our ears, through our senses. You know what I mean? And so I think that this is a opportune time to appreciate, that discernment. I'm done. If that resonates, past, I'm done.
It does. It does. I believe that well, I don't believe it. I know it. The reason that we lost our affinity, our unicity with nature, is because we lost the sense of who we are.
Yeah.
And when we lose that sense of who we are, then that also disconnects us from everything that we are and everything that we have brought into existence. And if I may carry that a step further, yeah, in talking about Elohim bringing everything into existence in this natural world, and Elohim being who we are in physical form, that also speaks to the reason that we have the creativity and the ingenuity to bring into existence all the things that we have invented. Because Elohim is the one. If Elohim creates and creates all the natural all of nature, the Elohim in bodily form, in human form, is also capable of being creative enough to bring into existence those things that helps humanity to live a life that is more comfortable in the earth. The difference is that the things that were invented were done so out of while under duress. Most of, well, all of it really, while under duress in the clutches of enslavement. Even and prior to that, if you look at Kemet, well, there would be no Kemet without Cush. So if you look at Cush and what Cushites left in Kemet, you will also see the creative nature of the first humans on Earth, and that has not changed. There are those who have made some improvements on what we brought into existence, but they did not create it. Even the idea of the periodical chart, that came from Kemet. So what I'm saying in essence is that our creative abilities are always there. The difference is knowing who we are. Look at George Washington Carver. How did he get his inspiration to do all that he did. This inspiration came as he walked in the midst of nature, as he walked in the midst of, look at all that we created, even though those were not his thoughts that I created this or we created this. It was the message, the spiritual connection, the spiritual unicity between between Elohim and the physical environment that he walked through. And with every breeze came an understanding, came a message. With every touch of the wind, him touching the physical aspects of nature, a message being delivered. We have gotten so academically inclined until we rely on our academic understandings to deduce or to understand nature itself, as opposed to dependent on depending on who we are by knowing who we are, and that gives us a better opportunity to be who we are. So the spiritual essence, knowing the spiritual essence of who we are, also gives us insight into everything that is and everything that is going to be. Because when you invent something, that means that you brought something into a physical existence that did not exist before. So we are continuously bringing things into existence that did not exist, which means that we're creative and we are still creating. Does all that make sense? Is that clear?
Yes.
So them moving out of the east was indicative of moving away from beginning and enlightenment consciousness.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
And so because they were in the case of Nimrod, they've moved away, they've moved out of the east. They are a couple of generations away from Noah. So, and if Nimrod was a mighty hunter, then he would have been close to nature. But then he turned to building cities, which is that also kind of indicative of moving away from nature, God consciousness, and kind of creating what you want to create as opposed to, I mean, I'm getting a little confused about.
Okay. Nimrod the hunter is a metaphor for for one who is for you being one with nature. This is the one with nature. And as you move away from the garden, as you move away from the east, as you move away from beginning, you begin to have a reduced experience with where you were before you start to move from that space. And the moving was not a physical thing. The moving was a spiritual thing. And the spiritual movement of Nimrod was seeing, let me put it this way as an example, seeing just a smidget of what spirituality is and taking it from there and building what you want it to be. In other words, you are determining how you are going to receive enlightenment and how you're going to give enlightenment to other people. You made a decision because you moved so far away from beginning, from the east. You made a decision and that decision that you made has resulted in the rising of religion. Does that make sense so far, Audrey?
Yes.
So where we are now, these scriptures, these sacred writings were kept as they were kept intact, well, not intact, it kept in the space that we live in, because other people.
Hey,
Hello? Because other people um, uh, 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 decided to move as Nimrod did. They picked up on the religious aspects of it. Now here we are. We are in a space that humanity has never been in since it left the East. And what do I mean by that? The sacred writings are becoming alive to us. And the message of Nimrod is a message to who we are right now, telling us how we got to where we are, and showing us at the same time that we are able to move back to where we were in terms of our psyche, in terms of our unicity with Elohim. If you look at the movement, the migration, the physical migration of the African throughout the world and bring into existence other people, other groups of people, is a physical message of a spiritual truth. The further the migration moved out from the east, out from Africa, the less spirituality was to be found, and the outer portions of this sense of the far corner of being away from the east, of being moving away from spirituality, is seen in Europe. It traveled from a space of beginning to a space where there is not even a religion that came out of Europe. So that is a physical manifestation of the spiritual truth that we recognize and that we are making every effort to correct. And you can take that and fit it right into the story about Nimrod. Does that make sense, Audrey?
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that we moved out of the East too. So, okay, yeah.
You have to move out of the East. You have to take a journey.
I agree.
There is this man, there is this young man who is out on his own, and he come to a place, he understands the East, and he understands where he's from, and he values that. But he comes to a plain, and the plain is beautiful, and it's grassland, and he has the opportunity with those there. They're showing him that there is wealth there, and they're saying, well, you just come from the East. What you know and what you have seen, you can do wonderful things. You can get wealthy here. There's a lot of opportunity here. And so he pursues that, and the Tower of Babel, he starts to help them build. But there are two wrongs on the Tower of Babel he can take either way. One will lead him to truth in the Creator, and the other one will lead him to himself and seeing. Or excuse me, the other one will lead him to greed and how to manipulate and get greedy. So he has a choice. He can try to make a name for himself, or he could take the other route and secure himself in knowing that I surrender, and my value is the thing that I value is I would do anything to find truth. So he decides to find truth while others decide to make a name for themselves. So that's what, but everybody has to come out of the East. You have to take the journey. You have to be you. You have to build who and make who you are. We all define ourselves. And
I,
and
I'm
so
sorry. Right.
So I guess what I'm getting at is we can't forget that Babel wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Babel was a choice. And the choices that we make even hold true today. And I agree with you. It is exactly where we are today. In that some have used the plane of Shinar, what I forget the name of it, how to pronounce it, but some have used that to manipulate and to build their own tower and to manipulate people and gain wealth. But that was not uh, the only option that they had.
I think that I know that we had to get to where we are today. We had to um, become religious. We had to be in a a space of human existence where we served a God that was created by a human, as opposed to the God that exists. And we had to do that in order for us to see the difference between who Elohim is and who Nimrod wanted Elohim to be. And in doing so and recognizing that, we get a clearer vision of our own divinity. And with that clearer vision of our own divinity, now we are in a position to create in our image and likeness. If it were not for that, we would never be the fullness of who Elohim is. You have to create in your image and likeness. Elohim created in its image and likeness, and its image and likeness were the attributes of spirituality. And it took those attributes of spirituality and housed them in a physical body. And being in that physical body, now Elohim, who exists in physical form, has to create also, and it has to create in its image and likeness. And in doing so, it must bring those attributes to bear in the midst of all of humanity, so that so that we can live the fullness of being who we were created to be, not just us as Africans, but those who we create in our image and likeness. And I don't mean bodily, I don't mean skin color. I'm talking about the concepts of Mayat, or the concepts of loving kindness. When we do that, that is when we become the fullness of Elohim in human form. Does that make sense? Is that clear?
It makes sense.
Yes.
Makes sense, Pastor, because like you said, it's not the color of the piece of skin. It's just who can grasp who can grasp the things of God when God is showing you or letting you see. And not only that, the European made it out of color.
And that's and see, this is one of the things that I think we miss is that
You want to get me a lunch from Jack before you leave?
one of the things I think we miss is that um, this is not about politics. When we talk about the Neanderthal mindset, we look at how the political venue has manipulated people for gain, for wealth. This has never been spirituality versus government. This has always been spirituality versus religion. And the religion that were brought into this earth has been fostered by the Neanderthal mindset. Neanderthal mindset, meaning that whatever we say that the scriptures say, that's what it is. I watched, well, Kathy sent me a message. Actually, what did she send me? A podcast, and I listened to it about Carlton Pearson, and I will also watch the movie that she suggested come Sunday, that was about Carlton Pearson. Well, it touched me because not only because I knew him, but it also touched me because of the experiences he went through. When Carlton Pearson stood up and said that he did not believe that a just God would send people to hell simply because they had not had an opportunity to hear about Jesus. When he made that statement, who rose up and stood against him? Europeans. The Europeans who are in charge of Christianity, the Europeans who are in charge of religion are the ones who rose up against him. And the reason they rose up against him is because they are the gods over religion. They are the ones who make the decisions about what Christianity is. They make the decision about what Zionism is or Judaism. They make the decision about what Islam is. So what I'm saying is that when they made that decision, he lost 6,000 people from his congregation, and he refused to back down, even though at one point he felt like he might. So we are battling against principalities in high places, and those principalities are not government. Those principalities are entities or men who present themselves as being the God of this earth, the controllers of humanity. That's what we are dealing with. And that is the mindset that we have to change. That is to create, that is created in our image and likeness, creating a mindset that is a mindset of empathy, a mindset of mercy, a mindset of loving kindness, a mindset that recognizes that we are our brother's keeper because I am you and you are me. A mindset that does not foster separation in any way whatsoever, but a mindset that recognizes that the unification of humanity is necessary for us to be who we were created to be, and that is Elohim. Is that clear? Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes
Yes.
sense.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments about that?
I think
I have a
that was,
question. I'm sorry, I yield.
no, I was just going to say, I think that was one of the most important statements you've made to us, is the power and the things that we're to focus on and where we are, because there's so many distractions out there, and it's easy to get lost in something else, and there are things that appear to be a lot bigger, but if you look at what truth uh battled in the scriptures, that was right on target. The principalities and the energies and the powers that we're fighting is more in line with against religion than politics.
Yes.
So thank you.
Evelyn, before you speak, may I say one more thing?
Yes, sir. Please.
Christianity is what we labor against, not Trump, not the government. Why? Because Christianity is Trump's support system. Christianity is the support system for all racism, for everything that is antithetical to the welfare of humanity. Christianity undergirds it. And until we fully understand what that means, and embrace it, there will be a continuous struggle. I am very grateful to the Creator for allowing, for granting permission to our ancestors to guide us the way that we are being guided, so that we are at a space now where we recognize that the support system for Trump is not capitalism, it's not European governments, it's not Netanyahu, it is Christianity itself. Christianity is the most dangerous entity on the face of the earth because it does the most damage to humanity than any other group of religious people. And if there are questions about that, please raise them, because I can definitely give you any more examples than you can count.
And that includes Judaism. Is that what you're saying?
All ism, yes. Well,
Right.
Judaism could not exist without Christianity.
Okay.
If think about it, if the Christians said, as they said when I grew up, that all Jews are going to hell because they killed Jesus. Are you familiar with that term? Now, if Christians were to stand up right now and say the same thing, Judaism would not exist if they didn't want it to. Because this country has the weaponry. Christianity has at its disposal the weaponry to destroy Israel if it chose to. Does that make sense? And that is the reason I say Judaism would not exist if Christianity didn't want it to. Something happened in 2000. Evelyn, please hold on to your question.
Pastor, go ahead. Go ahead.
Something happened in 2000 that appeared to be benign, but it wasn't. You remember when there, in 2000, there was a reconciliation between all of the religions, Catholicism, Christianity, Judaism, etc. And they had a conference. I cannot remember the name of the conference that they had. They meaning all the religious groups who came together at the behest of the Pope, and they joined forces and set and recognizing each other. Prior to that, most African churches would not let a Catholic priest in their pulpit. But after that, it was okay. And if someone remembers what name they applied to that meeting, please let me know, because I can't remember at this moment. So what I'm saying is this: Christianity joined forces with all other religions, and they became one entity. And becoming one entity, they were the voice of God in this earth. And being the voice of God in this earth, they were able to influence governments worldwide into what they should be doing. And it looks like businesses did it. It looks like the Rockefellers, it looks like most of this world did it. If it were not, if Christianity today made a decision that Elon Musk is going to be broke, he will be broke. Because they, just like during the Inquisition, the Catholic Church had its own army. Christianity has its army. It's called the U.S. military. It's just that simple. I'm done. Unless, of course, there's a question or comment about what I said. Evelyn?
So, Pastor Jay, what is the scattering? Let me see. What is the scattering? Well, give me the meaning of the scattering of the languages. How does that relate to what? Yeah. Hold on a minute. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
That has nothing to do with the different languages that we speak. It has everything to do with whether or not we are speaking a spiritual language that is embraced by everyone. It doesn't matter whether we are teaching in French, in French, is whether or not you understand the language. Example, if you were to go into the church that you came out of and you were teaching what we are talking about, you would be speaking a language that they don't understand. And it has nothing to do about you speaking Spanish and they speaking English. No, the language has everything to do with spirituality or religious, the religious language. And the religious language makes everything material in terms of Jesus was a man, Moses was a man. Yet at the same time, it says everything in the Bible scripture. I mean, it's spiritual. What we are saying is that you're absolutely right. Everything in the scriptures is spiritual. And so is the meaning of Moses, who was not a real man. There is no place on this earth where you will find in any museum where any of the people of the Bible existed. There is no museum that holds Abraham's staff. No, it doesn't exist. All of this is the spiritual message. So it has nothing to do with whether you speak Spanish or Swahili. It has everything to do with whether you speak a language of spirituality or a language of religion. Does that make sense, Evelyn?
It does. So if I go back, telling them what I know or speaking to them of what I've learned or what I know, I'm speaking Babel as well.
Yes.
Because they can't understand what I'm saying. It's like a baby. A baby has the Babel language. We don't know what they're talking about. So, okay, yeah, I got that one.
I think it's a bit different than that too, Evelyn, the baby language.
Okay.
And the reason I say that it is because that baby at that age that is babbling, it just go babble until they learn to speak, right? That when I talk to you guys about be careful about how you talk to people in church. Don't take anything away from them. Don't hurt them, right? What am I saying? Don't expect them to understand French when they speak English. However, if you talk to them, if they ask you a question and you don't get all deep and academic with them, and you simplify your response, it leads to other questions. Why? Because your response is respecting not only who they are, but where they are in their understanding. And if they desire to go further in their understanding, they will raise more questions. If they don't, you leave it alone. You don't push it off on anyone. You're not blessed and highly favored in the Lord. You're not a part of a word church. You're not spiritually superior to anyone. You're a spiritual servant to everyone. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So it is imperative that we are very careful how we respond to questions and how we talk to people. You cannot put them down based upon what their understanding is, because who put you down when you didn't understand? One of the main things I would say about people coming to Great in the Faith Foundation or the class on Monday nights, no one would be permitted to talk down to anyone. No one. If you can't read, if you can't write, if you can't express yourself, that's fine. Ask the question the way you ask questions and respond the way you respond. And nobody is going to belittle you, because if they do, I'm going to ask them to leave. That's how we have to be with everyone we come in contact with, because most of the people we come in contact with, our family, and they don't understand. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Scattering may not be a bad thing, depending on how you look at it.
Well, she's talking about the languages.
Well, what I'm saying is, it talks about to disperse or to dash into pieces. In other words, I'm moving away to form my own opinion. I'm moving away so that I can see what I value. I see you, but I want to, I'm not seeing myself in what your language, as you have already stated. So I move to a place where I have to come up to my own understanding. Hopefully, that is to a place of truth. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
It does.
Ecumenical conference.
Okay.
That's what I was talking about when all the religions came together. Thank you, Kathy.
And I got one more thing. For right now, verse 6 says, the Lord said, if as one people speaking the same language, they have begun to do this, then there is nothing, then nothing that they plan to do will be impossible for them. To me, that's powerful, very powerful. Can you elaborate on that scripture, please?
Yes, ma'am. Look how powerful Christianity is. Speaking that language. Look how many people it had brought under its thumb. Look at the power that it wields worldwide. You go into Uganda and you evangelize Uganda, as you put it, and you influence the leadership in government to the extent that you have them arresting anyone who is gay and executing anyone who's caught in the act of being gay. Christianity did that. That's powerful. You go into France, and you make the decisions about the direction that the government is going to take in relationship to Catholicism. That's powerful. I remember the first place where I pastored at Mount Tabor. One of the deacon's son was in Spain in the military, and he was getting married. And the Catholic Church had put demands on Spain. In order for you to be married, you had to have a proof of your baptism. And I had to send a baptism certificate to Spain in order for him to marry the woman that he wanted to marry in Spain. That's power. Look at how South America is under the thumb of Catholicism. Evangelical Christianity does not challenge Catholicism. When Billy Graham went to South America to preach, he had his crusades in South America. And he made a pact with the Catholic Church that he would not invite people to Christ, that he would not try to get people baptized. All he did was preach. He did not do those opening the doors of the church, as we put it, because he was not going to be in conflict with Catholicism. So I am saying, to Evan's point, that in itself is powerful. It is so powerful until it overshadowed the power of Elohim in the earth. It overshadowed the power of God, and still does it to this day. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yes. And how does that relate to what we're doing as well?
We have recognized for the first time in our lives anyway, that there is nothing more powerful than spirituality. The only reason that spirituality appeared to lie dormant is because of our choices to follow religion. The moment that we started asking questions about religion, And we began to see that there were no answers in Christianity. We start searching. And when we started searching, that is when we embraced spirituality. And the spirituality that appeared to be lying dormant raised its head. And it showed us the power of our spirituality. This entity that is that was Jesus, that was transferred into a man. Look at the power that Christianity put in it. If we look at the spiritual essence of that deliverance that's being spoken of there, there is absolutely nothing that is more powerful than spiritual deliverance. And the deliverance of spirituality has nothing to do with being saved to go to heaven. The deliverance of spirituality has everything to do with you being delivered from the throes of religion, you being delivered from our worshiping a man as God, as opposed to understanding the submission that we are obligated to do is to the one who created us and not to the God that was brought into existence by religion, inclusive of Islam, Hinduism, Judaism, and Christianity. I hope that helps.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oh, and by the way, George, at some point I want you to elaborate on AI, okay? Ancestral intelligence that you brought up earlier.
Yes.
Maybe we do that next week, okay?
Yeah, that'll be fine. And if I may, in terms of, Evelyn's questions and comments, as we talked about the sacred writings, of our biblical texts that we have read and that we continue to read, I think a important point of emphasis that I like to share is the importance of the thunderous word that is coming from our ancestors. And what I'm saying, Pastor and Evelyn in particular, in this case, when you acknowledge our ancestors and we acknowledge the word Ashe, it just brings us into an awareness of us being able to appreciate the importance of our foundation when we talk about man, know thyself. And as I, meditated on that, I think that again, I look at it as one man, know thyself, where it's that balance that we are coming into a point of spiritual enlightenment that makes us to appreciate the words that are coming from Elohim, but the words that are coming from our ancestors. So that libation, when that we have talked about before, I think is bringing all this into a remembrance that we can think about the importance of what our ancestors wrote on the tombs, what they wrote on the temple, writings that helps us to again appreciate the journey that we on. So I just wanted to, share those thoughts in reference to the sacred writings, but knowing that, we are hearing from our ancestors from the words that they have written. I'm done. I just wanted to share those thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. In addition to that, George, we are our ancestors because the same skin that was on the first human in this earth is the skin that we have to this day.
Wow. Yes.
The same spirit, the same essence. So we are our ancestors and they are us. What we have done is forsaken the ancestors for this entity called Jesus.
Yes.
So now that we have returned to the east, Mr. Ron, now that we return to the east, we are beginning to see the power that is the inherent power of being one with our Creator. So thank you.
Yeah.
And that's too where, again, we talk about, AI and people, look at it with regards to artificial intelligence, multiple intelligence, but when we can appreciate our ancestral intelligence, I think that will give us again an awakening that some of us have experienced, but in reference to appreciating history teachers, you know what I mean, of our ancestral lineage. So definitely, I look forward to that discussion when that time permits. I'm done.
Thank
So
you.
do I. So do I. Uh, I think too, I look forward, George, I look forward to us. I like to delve into beginning a little bit more as well and look at that and not only from the perspective of the East, but what is manifestation and what is before manifestation, that sort of thing. Uh, I like this. I like where we are today. Uh,
I want to say something, Ron.
yes, sir.
Um, some of you call me and you start talking to me about what you see or raise the question. I say to you, don't talk to me about it, just raise the question. The reason I say that is because I am at a stage in this journey. If I talk about it with you, there's nowhere near the clarity that I see when all of us are together. What I'm saying in essence is the presence of all of your energy is what helps tremendously for me to be able to see what I see. And even if I speak with you about it, when we begin to talk, I see things that I have never dreamed of before. And that is because I 100% am dependent on the voice of the ancestors speaking through me, to me. And I sincerely ask you guys to please forge a relationship with our ancestors to the extent that you don't even have to think about hearing them, that you know that they are one with you and always has been. Why? Because you won't see as I see, but you can see what I see. And that's important because when you see what I see, your articulation of it is different than how I articulate it. You can't see how I see because your experiences and mine are different, but you can see what I see. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that is my
Yeah.
deep desire for you guys to all of us to be one with the ancestors to the extent that we see. And that seeing is not with eyes, it's with the eye. And one of the things that I believe that we're going to do in the future, near future, matter of fact, that scripture that says that, and he lifted up his eyes in hell, that does not say eyes, it say I. And I believe wholeheartedly that that is a message to us this day. I do not believe that that message was for any other time period other than now. I do not believe that the sacred writings were preserved because we are supposed to know what happened in the past. No, 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 no. I know that the sacred writings were preserved because we were going to need to see the direction we're traveling in relationship to the false journey that Christianity gave us. I believe, just like the Tower of Babel, just like Nimrod is speaking to us today, I believe that everything in the book was preserved for such a time as this, was preserved for a time when people would come together knowing who they are and realizing that they are Elohim, and knowing that by being Elohim it's imperative that we create in our image and likeness, and showing us how to do that, and showing us how to walk away from the anger and walk away from the hatred that has been funneled toward us, and make sure that we don't send it back to anyone. I believe that the whole of the sacred writings is for us. And I don't back off of that, not 1 inch, not 1 iota. I believe that with everything in me. And the reason I say I believe it wholeheartedly is because I have never seen anything or read anything that speaks about and to the scriptures as we have been shown how to do. We are being taught how to open up the true meaning of what's written in the sacred writings in a way that it has never been opened up prior to our existence. It is imperative that we remember who we are. Remember that you are your ancestors, that we are our ancestors, they are us. If you forget that, just touch your skin. Touch your skin as a reminder of beginning. Your skin is no different than the skin of the first woman who gave birth to everything that is. Thank you.
Arshay.
Okay. How we doing? All any questions? Anybody? Were you done, Evelyn?
Yeah, I am. And what he just said and what has been said has been resonating all morning with me. I thank you for the energy that you put out there for mankind. Thank you so much.
We thank
Thank you.
Well, maybe this is a good place to pause it for the day. If there are no more questions or comments. And we will resume tomorrow evening at 6. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank
Have a
you,
good
everybody.